Who is Ryan Walters? To truly know him and his role in Oklahoma, we have to go back to the beginning.
We have two genders, doesn't jive with values. A lot more references to the Bible.
Very explicit.
Walters began his career as a teacher at McAlester High School, where he once was nominated for Teacher of the Year. His trajectory took a turn when Governor Kevin Stitt appointed him as the state's Secretary of Education.
Ryan Walters, he's our new Secretary of Education on Governor Stitt's cabinet.
In his first few years, he quickly received mixed reactions during COVID-19 from both parents and educators.
Oklahoma Secretary of Education is facing some backlash for saying state schools should be doing more to stay open.
Walters made headlines again and again.
Ryan Walters wants the Attorney General to stop the district from allowing transgender girls to use the girls' restroom.
It's common sense. It doesn't jive with Oklahoma values. Biological males should not be in a bathroom with underage girls. We're talking about young students. The genders should be separated in the bathroom.
In a letter sent Friday, Walters asked the state attorney general to order the district to stop putting children in grave danger with their bathroom policies.
House Democrats now calling for Governor Kevin Stitt to fire Secretary of Education Ryan Walters.
This after reports emerge of possible mismanagement of pandemic relief dollars.
Secretary of Education Ryan Walters headed up an effort to connect Oklahoma with tech platform ClassWallet to distribute the funds through the Bridge the Gap digital wallet program, hoping the setup could work for a future school voucher initiative. The U.S. Department of Education opened up an investigation into the program. Lawmakers are concerned with the governor's lack of response to the investigation.
Oklahoma voters will choose a new state superintendent in just over 2 weeks. Current Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister is now running for governor, so Republican Ryan Walters and Democrat Jenna Nelson are vying to fill her seat.
I will enforce the law as it is written. I will make sure that schools are showing parents not only what curriculum is being taught, but how all their money is being spent.
Oklahoma elects Republican Ryan Walters as our next state superintendent after a heated race with the Democrat challenger, Gina Nelson.
Walters joins us live in studio this morning. Welcome him to the table. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me this morning. Excited to be here.
Yeah, you sound excited. Your reaction to the results last night?
Oh, you know, I'm so excited, you know, to see Oklahomans come out to vote and reject Joe Biden's view for the country, for our state.
Secretary of Education wants to know how much universities are paying for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. He says that money should be funneled elsewhere.
I have great concerns about our state universities.
Walters' concern, he says, if they're serving students or pushing ideology.
It makes me question whether we should continue to be recommending young people go into these universities.
I wasn't aware of that, and I don't know what the context was. I would be 100% fine with us educating every single young person at our universities here.
This is an attack not only on your children, it's an attack on your family, on the values of this country, and the values of this state.
A school district's accreditation status could soon be determined by what is on its bookshelves. Today, the State Board of Education approved new rules that would prohibit certain books in school libraries.
Walters says the images in those books speak for themselves.
I'm very optimistic. I don't know how anybody can look at the images we saw today and hear the stories from parents about being ignored and not being included in their kids' education and think that these rules aren't appropriate.
He says if the Biden administration goes through with making this change to Title IX, he plans to sue the federal government.
It's one of the most outrageous things we've ever seen from a president.
It's the first Board of Education meeting since a proposed rule change to Title IX last week, a law that's meant to eliminate sex-based discrimination in education.
It shows the outrageous lengths that the Biden administration will go to control our schools.
The proposed change says that schools can't ban transgender students from competing on any team, or else they could lose federal funding.
We know that there are two genders. That's not controversial here.
Lawmakers say State Superintendent Ryan Walters is leaving millions worth of grant money on the table.
I don't want to call anybody a liar, but we weren't told the truth.
State Superintendent Walters told lawmakers on May 1st he had already applied for these grants. Today, he brought a list showing 4 grants they've applied for in just the last 2 weeks, totaling $187 million.
We've been on the phone with the feds, with all of our employees. We have no idea what Martin McBride's talking about.
And we want to completely have full choice for parents, full education freedom here in Oklahoma. Parents will be in charge of our education system, not these woke teachers unions.
Multiple legal documents have been filed today claiming wrongful termination.
As a result of the email that Walters and Langston sent out threatening employees with termination.
Attorney Mark Hammonds is representing former OSDE employees Matthew Colwell and Cheryl McGee, who were both fired from the department last week after this email was sent by OSDE advisor Matt Langston, threatening termination if employees talk with the media.
Here we have the Department of Education saying we don't want people to know what we're doing or why we're doing it.
Fearing she would be fired for sharing that email, McGee sent in her resignation letter, but that was denied, and instead she was fired the next day.
State Superintendent Ryan Walters is defending a conservative group that was labeled as extremist by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Law Center called that group Moms for Liberty, an anti-government extremist group. Meanwhile, the State Superintendent Walters releasing this statement saying it is yet another example of left-wing extremism and their insidious methods of labeling moms engaged in their kids' education as public enemy number 1.
Now to new calls for the impeachment of State Superintendent Ryan Walters and unrest tonight at an event filled with parents and educators.
This morning, a state lawmaker is calling on legislative leaders to start the impeachment process against State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Democratic State Representative Mickey Dollins calling it crucial to stop irreversible harm. Representative Dollins saying in part, quote, due to Ryan Walters' persistent weaponization of his office, 3 bomb threats have been made against an elementary school, putting innocent lives at risk.
Ryan Walters is being named in another lawsuit marking his 8th one since taking his role in the state's education department.
The Department of Education accused of botching teacher bonuses.
Tonight, some say they were given $50 grand only to have the state turn around and take it right back.
LGBTQ advocacy group launching a new ad campaign calling for the impeachment of State Superintendent Ryan Walters.
Ryan Walters is in it for himself and for radical national extremists, not for Oklahoma's children or families.
Martin McBride is on a political witch hunt, which I appreciate your interview with him yesterday. He admitted it. It's about politics. He admitted it's about. He said it's about the 2026 gubernatorial election. He told you. He has been lying across the state of Oklahoma. He's been lying to other lawmakers, saying, hey, I need this information, Ryan won't give it to me. And then he told you guys on a show, yeah, he's got a stack of papers that high.
Just into our newsroom, several House Republicans at the state capitol are circulating a letter calling for an investigation into State Superintendent Ryan Walters.
As students head back to school next month, the state superintendent expects the Bible to be in every classroom.
Obviously, the Bible played a major historical role in our history. It's not debatable. That should be part of your understanding of American history, or it's academic malpractice.
State Superintendent Ryan Walters rolled out additional guidelines today of how he expects Oklahoma teachers incorporate the Bible into curriculum.
In the guidelines, you see references to the Mayflower Compact. You see Thomas Jefferson talking about unalienable rights. What did he mean by that?
The superintendent says it's not a change in the state standards or statute.
These are guidelines to ensure that you are upholding the standards. These are standards so kids can understand the full scope of American history. It's just like you can't refuse to teach math in a school district. These are standards.
But next year, Walters says he'll be pushing for drastic changes to those state standards.
We're going to have a lot more references to the Bible, very explicit.
OSDE is still working through some logistics, including which version of the Bible and the cost of putting the book in at least 1,700 Oklahoma schools.
And so we're continuing to flesh out what those options look like.
But there's one thing Walters has made clear clear. He says he won't tolerate noncompliance.
We will hold individuals and districts accountable if they choose not to comply.